Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to all the listeners who've tuned into Talk Radio Network with Joanne Vandermeulen for Monday, April 9th. I'm your host, Joanne Vandermeulen, coming to you live from Courtenay, British Columbia, as I do most Mondays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. I'm the owner and internet manager of Premium Promotional Services, where you create, we promote. I'm the founder, owner, and marketer of Happy Hour Publishing, where we develop, market, and sell apps for your smartphones. I'm the creator of Conquer All Obstacles, featuring free marketing tips, and the creator of Joanne Vandermeulen Journey to Publication, where I'm constantly building my platform for the published releases. One is a suspense romance novel called Conquer All Obstacles, and premium promotional tips for writers. And my new release, it's nonfiction, again, resource, Internet Marketing Made Easy. And it's a book about practical marketing ideas to create massive exposure and drive traffic back to your site where your products are sold. Well, folks, listeners, we've got a fantastic show for you this evening, and I'm so excited to be your host and present Talk Radio Network with Joanne Vandermeulen and Anne Nordhaus-Bike. Stay tuned as you will learn about time management. Oh, gosh, we really need this. Now, she's got an extra twist on here. She's going to include how to use astrology to work well with time and handle it effectively. Interesting. So get out your, I don't know about you, but my friend has a smartphone and he's got an app right now, and he just waves it into the sky, and holy smoke, the stars just come alive with all these names, and planets come with names. So, I mean, we're going to actually get to know some of these and know what is with astrology and maybe how we can use it in our time management. Anne's latest release, Follow the Sun, is an amazing book that will show you a simple way to use astrology for living in harmony. Can't we all use that? Well, you can follow Anne Nordhaus-Bike at ANB Communications, and you can learn how to use writing, astrology, art, and mystical music videos and short films to help you live in harmony, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. A balance that I don't know about you folks, but I'm constantly trying to achieve. And you can join her as she is one of the main presenters at this year's promo day. Now listen, anyone who has anything to do with writing, any in the industry, Saturday, May 19th, mark that on your calendar, because we have a fabulous lineup. I shouldn't say we. It's Joe Lindsell who has a fabulous lineup of presenters. And this is free, people. So just book the day. Anyway, Anne is going to be talking about time management. So you'll be able to tune into the promo day that Joe Lindsell is actually promoting. And, yeah, you got to be there. Oh, and I guess I'm going to be one of the promoters, too. Yeah, my presentation is on blogging. So they've classified me as a blogging expert. So I guess, yeah, you're going to find a lot of different topics at promo day coming up May 19th. That's a Saturday. Mark it on your calendars. In this evening's show, you're going to learn where you can find Anne Nordhaus-Bike and get the inside scoop as to her inner drive, more about Anne's personal testimony and her goals, and what's next for Anne Nordhaus-Bike. So please stay tuned. I would like to remind those who could not make the live show, or if you were here listening and perhaps missed part of the information presented, no problem. Just simply go to Joanne Vandermeulen's Journey to Publication site at www.joconquerall.com. That's JOCONQUERALL.com. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see, I believe there's about 72 archive shows. You can click on the title there, and you'll be able to catch the recording. Because after the show, I'll make sure that I record it for you. And that way, if you've missed any of the show or any recordings made after, you'll catch everything. Well, I'm so excited. We have approximately 20 minutes left to present today's message on Talk Radio Network with Joanne Vandermeulen and Anne Nordhaus-Bike. So now, on to this evening's show. I'd like to introduce my very special guest, Anne Nordhaus-Bike. Hello, Anne. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Just fabulous, and coming to you today from Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, man, and how's that weather out there?
Sunshine and chilly, but absolutely lovely.
Awesome. We're a little slow here on the island. I'm on Vancouver Island, and the flowers are just starting to come out. For me, being someone who suffers from that nice pollen allergies, I'm kind of suffering here.
Oh, dear.
I know, my voice is a little lower, but that's okay. It sounds really sexy on the radio. Anyway, and this is your show, so, we're going to go right into the questions because our listeners are excited to listen to what you have to offer. And maybe even before we get into the questions, Anne, can you let the listeners know how to get a hold of you, or if they want to contact you, what is the best way?
Absolutely, and thank you. Our website is www.anb, for Anne Nordhaus-Bike, anbcommunications.com. And on the website, there's a section called Contact, and at the bottom of every single page gives information for if you want to reach us by phone, or there's a form to fill out if you just want to send us a quick email or something via online. Either way is perfect, and there's all kinds of information available on the website to help with questions or anything anybody might need.
Awesome. And, as you probably have found out, Anne, that with today's technology, interaction is so important. So it sounds like you're ready to interact with any of the followers or listeners that are here this evening, or anybody and listeners, spread the word. If you know of other people who might be interested in astrology, time management, please send them Anne's link. Okay, Anne, we're going to get started here. Anne, why did you write Follow the Sun?
My interest in astrology goes back actually to childhood. It was really fortunate for me to grow up with a father who was very interested in spiritual and metaphysical topics. And so astrology signs were things we talked about, for example, at the dinner table. We just grew up with these things. And so later in life it became a passion for me, and actually now is part of my profession. But I do know that for many people, astrology can seem very kind of overwhelming. It has science, it has math, it has symbols. It's this language that can be a little bit tough to understand, but there are ways to make it very easy because essentially astrology is a very practical tool. It's been used for thousands of years to figure out what's the best time to do things. And if you think about ancient cultures, for them, what's the best time to plant the crops so they'll grow well and we'll be able to feed everybody. So just looking at it from that super simple standpoint, everybody can understand astrology on a very simple level, and which doesn't mean basic, it just means simple to use, but in easy and simple ways to apply it and actually find ways to enjoy it and have the richness of this very beautiful subject without having to spend a lifetime becoming an expert. You really don't need to do that. If you just know when you were born, you're 95% of the way there. And so I wrote it to help make it easy.
Wow, that sounds really interesting, and I'd be interested to know what it says about my birth date, and so do probably a lot of the listeners out there. But again, Anne, can you give the title of your book and where they can find it so that they can look up their birth date and maybe when is the best time that they should be working?
Absolutely. The book is called Follow the Sun, and the rest of the title is A Simple Way to Use Astrology for Living in Harmony. It's available through our website. It's also available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble online, and some local booksellers. But all of the places it's available, you can find out via our website. Or you could just search for it, pull it up on Amazon. We also have a Facebook and a LinkedIn page, and so those are sources where we have actual immediate links to get to where you can find the book for sale.
Okay, well, you've titled your book Follow the Sun. How is that relating to managing time?
Basically, and this is where astrology is so beautifully simple, the sun is the center of our solar system. It's the central fact, if you will, of our physical existence. If the sun weren't here and it didn't shine, our own crops wouldn't grow, we wouldn't have daytime, those kinds of things. If you simply pay attention to where the sun was when you were born, and what that means is what your sun sign is. So, for example, when someone says, I'm an Aquarius or I'm an Pisces, that's their sun sign. And it's really easy to figure out what that is because it changes every month. And as long as you know when you were born, you can take a look at the little chart that's on our website under the astrology resources, and you'll know immediately where's the sun when you were born. And for time management, that will help you know how do you look at time just based on where your sun is. For example, if it's in Aries, that the sun is in Aries right now. And so people who are born with the sun in Aries tend to be very Aryan, which is they're fiery, they're passionate, they're amazing, they get things going, but they could tend to be impatient. So for time management, for someone who's in Aries, the great thing to remember is, wow, I need to sometimes slow down and not make a hasty decision.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, the sun is important to all of us, obviously, what you're talking about with the calendar and when we were born and everything. But I know you're also planning to talk about the moon as our previous conversation. How does that fit in with the time management? And can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. Very quickly, the moon is our emotions. How we feel about time. So, for example, your sun might be how you kind of unconsciously work with time, but the moon is, how do I feel about this, and what do I need, and where's my comfort zone? So one thing to know about the moon is the sun might take a whole month to go through a particular astrological sign, but the moon moves really quickly, and she travels through a sign in about 2.5 days, and where she comes into play is, have you ever had a day where you were just on the top of the world and things went so great, but then by the next day you were down in the dumps? That's the change of moods that we can have. You're laughing.
Did you say moods or moons?
Both. The moon equals mood because as
I would
changes,
say my children. Excuse me, Anne, but I was just going to say that my family members would probably say that's PMS. Does that work into this?
That's the moon, too, because women's cycles are absolutely connected to the moon. So they actually got it right.
Okay, now let's talk about the men here. What about their cycles? Do they have cycles?
It's an interesting thing. For men, it's very important for them to pay attention to the sun, just as it is for women. But very often in the case of men, our culture, especially here in the Western Hemisphere, is maybe not so forgiving about being emotional. But men certainly feel these emotions. They may just not show them in the same way. So they may very well be feeling things.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from you then is if we sit down, we actually study the sun and the moon as when we were born and where everything is, that we can actually figure out when is the best time to work and how we should handle it?
Absolutely. It'll give you some really great clues. And if you know,
cool.
For example, with the moon, since you know now, all of our listeners have just heard me say the moon changes signs every 2.5 days, it's really hopeful because if you're feeling kind of down in the dumps, the moon tells you, okay, I know this is going to pass. And I can immediately start to feel better and know, okay, maybe I need to take an afternoon off, come back to it in the morning, and I know I'm just going to start to feel better.
Yeah, well, and I don't know about most of you of the listeners out there, but myself, because I work in my own home and with my own hours, I really have learned to listen to my body, my mind. If I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm tired, I sleep. And on a whole 24-hour cycle, I'm kind of crazy, and like a lot of people think that I'm on the internet all the time, but I'm not really. Like, is there anything about a 4-hour cycle? Because I tend to work well, like working for 4 hours, but then I have to break, like even sleep, and then work for another 4 hours and then sleep.
There's definitely a rhythm, and we all have a personal rhythm, and that can be very dependent on the kinds of things that are going on in your astrological chart. But one thing that I would say is you're working with technology, and the planet Mercury is concerned with that, and Mercury is kind of a restless energy. So those of us who write and those of us who do creative things and communicate tend to need to have the downtime. So in other words, you can do things for a little stretch, but then you need the change of pace, and that's the best way to stay in balance. And so it sounds like you've come to that intuitively.
And, it's just a good thing I don't have anybody around me because I think I was completely nuts. Like, it's nothing for me to be barbecuing at 4 a.m. in the morning. and I'm sure that people would go, "What? Oh my gosh, she's completely do." But I go with my own schedule. I don't have, like, my kids are grown up now, so I've really just learned just to be who I need to be and where and work at the most. And of course, I'm a morning person. I know when I can actually just discharge that creativity the most. And for anyone who knows me personally, do not talk to me after 6 o'clock. And I'm not talking Eastern Central Time. I'm talking Pacific Standard Time Zone, because I do not make sense. Strange, eh? And I know
really
different
important.
people. I know, but it's really hard to find a partner that's the same. Because, for me, it's like I'm not an evening person or a night person. So, like, anyone who likes to entertain or go out to, like, say, the nightclubs or something like that, I'm bagged. I'm done. I wish, and when I used to work as a professional out in the business world, it was like they call a meeting like for after work. I would be like, oh my gosh, I can't even function. Now, if they would have called that meeting before we started, like between the hours of 4 a.m. to 7, I would have been
Breakfast
fine.
with Joe, yes.
And I'm sure the listeners out there have a lot of different comments that can say the same thing, or even the other way around. I know people that actually function better after midnight,
Yeah.
and I bet you it has a lot to do with the sun and the moon with them, too.
Very often you'll see folks who have the sun in Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, be much more comfortable at night. A lot of them tend to work at night.
Wow. I know I was always envious of these people, and I thought, you know what, I can try this. I can do this, So I'd sneak naps during the day trying to think, okay, well, I'm going to push myself and be a night person. It still didn't work.
Astrology really is exactly what you just said. It's about know thyself, and as soon as you know yourself a little bit better, then you can play to your strengths and you can manage your time. As you're saying, that gives you courage to be a little bit, well, maybe you could say wacky, or you could say really self-fulfilled. It's a barbecue at 4 in the morning. It works for you.
I know. Anyway, we'll go on. So between the moon and the sun, that gives all of us some really helpful tools for thinking about time. And your promo day, which is coming up in May, presentation also is going to talk about the planet Mercury, and you've mentioned that a little bit. You said that it's really important for anyone who does anything with communication technology. And these days, that's pretty much anyone who wants to promote the book or a business or an idea or anything. Okay, I want you to tell us a little bit more about Mercury, because this is pretty interesting for myself, and I'm sure most of the listeners out there that are writing and trying to promote themselves, and what it means for managing time.
Okay. If nothing else from this program today, if people walk away with a little bit of knowledge of Mercury, that's going to be huge for helping with timing, because Mercury rules communication and writers and certain aspects of travel, like little local trips you make around your immediate area. And you rules things like gadgets and technology, things like computers. And so what Mercury does, it moves super fast, and it's restless, and it gives us this wonderful thing in our minds where we can think quickly and we can come up with new ideas and things we want to promote and create. But 3 times a year, Mercury does something that can throw us for a loop. It does what we call in astrology going retrograde. And what that means is it looks like from where we are on Earth, it looks like it's moving backwards. Now, it's not, but it looks like it. When Mercury retrograde happens, all kinds of things associated with communication and thinking and computers can really hit some problems. You might actually have something as serious as a computer crash, or your phones might go down, or you might really not be able to think clearly or make some decisions, or you might really not feel comfortable starting something new. Those are all really important things to pay attention to, because Mercury does this thing 3 times a year. And so if we know about these things in terms of time management, we know, okay, if I've got this brand new thing I want to launch, whether it's a book or a product or a website, don't launch it during Mercury retrograde. Wait until a few days at least after it has passed, because if you do it during the time Mercury is retrograde, you're probably going to end up with some difficult results. You'll learn some really valuable things, but it will be much more painful than it needs to be, because you might have a meltdown, or you might have the books not get there in time for a signing, or you might have a miscommunication that's very expensive in terms of ordering something. So Mercury can be super helpful if we just pay attention to what it's doing. And I bet a lot of folks who are listening today might have had some challenging experiences. Mercury was just retrograde, just the last few weeks, from March 12th until April 4th. And Joe, I know you were laughing a little bit when we were talking about Mercury, and I have a hunch that you might have had a few of your own snags in terms of some of the works that you do, or maybe communication. And I just wondered if you had any experiences you'd feel comfortable sharing with listeners about that.
Well, that's interesting, Anne, because, when you mentioned this before, and I was thinking, I'm usually I'm a Christian, and I really try to keep my language in tone. But when technology tends to do a little bit of a bump, it's really hard not to keep those words intact. And I do have to admit, I had a few flashed or actually quite expressive terms fly out of my mouth lately between March 12th and April 4th. I remember waking up one morning and thinking, okay, I'm going to start into the internet. And I went to go get on, and I had no internet. So, but thankfully, I have technology behind me. So I knew, okay, so I tried to shut down my computer and reboot it, and that didn't work. So then I tried to clear my cache and then shut down my computer and reboot it, and that didn't work. Finally, what I ended up doing was actually unplugging every friggin' cord from the outlet and leaving it out for a certain amount of time, then plugging it back in, and then it actually, reprogrammed itself. So, I lost a good hour in there, which to me, time is very valuable. And then, I thought, now I'm on the roll. Now I need to watch. I always like to either watch or listen to my favorite program on my screen, on my TV screen while I'm working. I'm a kind of a multitasker at times. So anyway, I'm going to get into Netflix, and then that's a new thing that I got. So I go to get into Netflix, and do you think I could get on? No.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not. In fact, I couldn't even get into my TV. Not only my Netflix was down, but my TV was off. And by that time, I had torn out every frigging cord in the back of the TV set. And I contacted my friend who's a techo, and I said, what's going on here? I am so frustrated here. I can't get anywhere. He calmed me down. He's probably got his sun and his moon in a different place.
Must be, yes, in the calm side.
Exactly. So he came over and he fixed it for me. So then finally, after about 3 hours of struggling, it was okay, finally I've got my computer going and I've got my TV going, and now I'm ready to roll. But, that was my own experience, Anne, but I do want to give you one more. It's kind of an eerie experience, and I do aquasize a lot at the pool, and when I do aquasize, my ears are open, and I listen to the people talking around me, especially in the change room. And I had a very interesting conversation happen around me. It was one of those ones that was really eerie. This lady had said that she had sent an email during the March 12th to April 4th, which is the retrograde time in which Mercury is going backwards in technology. She had sent an email to her sister asking her sister if she would like to come and visit her. Well, she hadn't heard back from this email. So she just assumed her sister didn't want to come visit her. She sent another email during that time asking, when is her children going to be available, because she'd love to invite her and her children over, come to the Comox Valley for a visit. She never heard anything. So then she assumed that her sister didn't want to come visit her. So anyway, she died.
Oh, my.
Okay, April 5th, she received the email.
Oh, my.
That said that she would be happy to come visit her.
Oh, my.
So, yeah.
That's classic and very meaningful, spiritual Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
It gives us some real food for thought.
Yeah. I thought I'd just share that with you.
That's actually, in its way, very beautiful because it's really, here's this woman, when it's retrograde, it's looking at the past. And so here's someone from her past and so big a part of her life. And now gone, but there's still a connection.
Oh, can you imagine getting an email from somebody who has died?
That's exactly what Mercury
funeral?
does. Yes. It stirs everything up and communication goes awry, but it comes at funny times, like you said, eerie times. But it sort of forces us to pay attention. That's really the underlying theme. Mercury is saying, pay attention and think in new ways and look at what the weak links are in your communication and your technology so that you can move ahead stronger.
Wow. Well, Anne, I'm just going to take a little bit of a breather here because that was quite intense.
Yeah.
Could you please, again, tell the listeners your title, who you are, your latest release, and where they can find it? And you.
Absolutely. This is Anne Nordhaus-Bike, author of Follow the Sun, a simple way to use astrology for living in harmony. And you can find full details about it on our website, www.anbcommunications.com, or you can look on Facebook or on LinkedIn for either of those places. The book is definitely available right now, and we're having a book launch party in the Chicago area April 22nd, and full details are about that on our website as well for any of the listeners who might be in the Chicago area.
Sounds wonderful, Anne. We have approximately 2 minutes left, Anne, before our live show is finished, and I know we have quite a few more questions to go through if we need to. Anne, I'm going to let you choose. Which one would you like to direct here, and how would you like to end the show?
Well, I think for the last tidbit right now, to give folks a heads up and a small piece of really valuable data to mark their calendars for the upcoming Mercury retrograde periods later this year. There's going to be one that'll start in mid-July and it'll go for about 3 weeks, and another one that's going to start in early November and end around the end of November. So just so you could be aware, plan ahead and work around those dates. And keep a journal or a notebook and see what comes up for you, what new data you learned. That's the beautiful part of Mercury retrograde. We learn new things, and we come out stronger if we're paying attention.
Excellent, excellent. Again, for the listeners that are listening in, this live show is ready to go off the air live in about a minute. But, I'm going to keep recording it, and I will actually have the archive show on my site and on talkradionetwork.com site. So there will be more information. So don't tune out yet. But for those people that are listening live, I'd like you to know that you're free to post our show and embed this widget into your blog or MySpace pages. And I encourage you to spread the word to others who will find this content valuable. Help us share the wealth of knowledge. Well, this completes Talk Radio Network with Joanne Vandermeulen, and I'd like to thank our listeners for tuning in. And, my featured guest, Anne Nordhaus-Bike, for contributing in this evening's fabulous show. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's just been a delight to be here.
All right. Talk Radio Network with Joanne Vandermeulen will air live again on Monday, April 16th at the same time. And the next show will be at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. Denise's latest release, Love Pour Over Me, is told with a vibrant voice, a story about restored love amid heartbreaking contrasts. A book readers can relate to. Also, stay tuned and be ready to grab valuable content about the benefits of radio shows. So anyone who's into business or authors or promoting themselves, she's going to talk about radio shows and book reviews and shortcut directions to help you with the internet marketing, applicable for anyone who has products to sell. So you'll have to stay tuned next Monday, same time. Well, this is your host, Joanne Vandermeulen, saying goodbye until Monday, April 16th at the same time, coming to you live from Courtenay, British Columbia, knowing you can conquer all obstacles. And Anne, again, thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's been a delight to be here. Just so pleased to get to know you a little bit better via phone.
It's nice to hear your voice too, Anne. And for those people that are just listening into the recording, we're going to continue on. And your Follow the Sun book talks about every zodiac sign. Each chapter talks about a specific sign and then has a profile of a famous person from history. It also is unusual because it includes a lot of color and your original artwork. Why did you organize your book this way?
Essentially, the book has all this art and color in it to go with the words because my company, A&B Communications, is really dedicated to helping people balance their lives on every level, not just physical or mental, but also emotional and spiritual. And so having the art and the color helps give that balance because they speak to the emotions and they speak through symbols to our spiritual side. They also, because of the way it's structured, it starts in the first half of every chapter with a little bit of information about a particular astrological sign, and the second half of every chapter talks about a famous person because it's so helpful and so nice in life when we can learn from somebody else's experience instead of our own bitter and sometimes very difficult experience. And so
True.
Famous people give us a way to learn about how they made their choices, and we can feel inspired and uplifted by the wonderful things they did and the things they overcame, and we can feel compassion for the times maybe they stumbled, but ultimately we can see how they're human just like we are and take comfort from that and know that, yes, it's a long journey in a lifetime, but if you know a little bit about astrology, it makes it a little bit easier.
Very interesting. Colors.
Yes.
What is your color?
In terms of either my sign or favorite color, you mean?
Yeah.
I'm very fond of pastels because I'm a Libra, and so that's a sign that's ruled by the planet Venus, and Venus loves pastels and soft, clear little colors like that. So I like pink and I like light blue, but I also like golden sorts of colors.
So, Anne, okay, I'm a Capricorn. For the
Mm-hmm.
benefits of our listeners, tell us a little bit about this sign. I know this comes off a little bit from the colors, but let's go back to my sign here and the best ways to handle time management when the sun goes through like Capricorn every year.
Sure. Capricorn is a very, very interesting sign because it comes at the time of the year when the sun is starting to get bigger in our lives. In other words, it comes around December 21st. That's the winter solstice. It's the shortest day of the year, but the sun is going to increase in light every day. So that's really very symbolic and beautiful for Capricorn. What it says is, oh my, things are going to get better. So we're in the depths of winter, but the sun's getting bigger. And Capricorn comes along, and as you really know very well, Joe, it comes around all these beautiful winter holidays, but it's a bit of a kind of cold water splashed on us saying, okay, you've had these wonderful holidays in December, but now you have to face reality in late December and January, like if you overspent on your credit cards or, for gifts and things. Saturn rules Capricorn, and Saturn says you need to do things with integrity. And that's one of the beautiful things about Capricorn is when it operates well, it builds things. It's an earth sign, so it builds nice structures, and it helps us build things that are really useful, and it's a very practical sign. So it's very much like what you do with your radio show. Your radio show goes out over technology, but it's a very practical radio show giving people tools that they can immediately apply, and that's part of what the Capricorn energy is all about.
Wow, that's very interesting. And, when you were saying that, I was thinking myself, for example, after the 21st of December, I start into my books, and I start into, my taxes. And I also start into revising my websites and my Facebook pages. And it's just sort of a cleanup time for me. So maybe that's where I sort of get the urge to just start, okay, now it's time to get going here.
Yes, you kind of get serious, get back to business. Capricorn is a sign associated, And
I do that just because that's what it feels. It feels right to do that. And actually, I usually try to tell any of my clients that I'm not really available for the month of end of December and the full month of January. I call them me months, and me months meaning I just focus on myself and how to improve the content that I'm able to give for the next year coming up?
That is a really great way, actually, to use time management. That very beginning of your personal year, which starts with your birthday or the start of your astrological sign. So anybody else who's a Capricorn, that's perfect timing. It's a great time to review the past year, set new goals, and do what you just said. Get organized for the new year.
Exactly. So what's next for you, Anne? We're just about done with time here, even with the recording.
Okie dokie. Most exciting on the horizon, of course, is the book launch party here in Chicago. And we're preparing for that. And one nice thing about it, too, is it's going to be at an art gallery. So it's reinforcing this theme of using art and beauty along with words and astrology to help people balance on all planes. And it's going to be held on Earth Day, which is really very beautiful. It's about tangible beauty. And books are tangible. In addition, I continue my newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter available through our website. People can sign up. It's free. It comes out once a month. And it's designed to be very helpful for people to give them a heads up on Mercury retrograde, for example, and where the sun is going to be. So we continue with that, and there's new art that's debuted every month with that newsletter to harmonize with the sign. And then in addition, I have a blog that I do, and pretty much about once a week, and that focuses on shorter messages about what's happening with astrology and how to use it in practical ways to live in harmony.
Sounds fabulous, Anne, and I can just imagine all the listeners out there that's going to be tuning in to all your material. Like, the content is valuable, especially with time management. We're always struggling with that. Now, if we can find just even some secrets of ourselves to save ourselves some time, it's huge, absolutely huge. And I know your book's going to take off and has taken off and will continue to take off. But before we close, I want to be sure to mention promo date, May 19th, again, for all the listeners, 2012. That's this year. May 19th is Saturday. Anyone that's in the writing industry, I invite all the listeners today to register and participate. It is free. And I will be talking more about blogging that day. And Anne, you'll be talking more about, go ahead,
time
Anne.
management. And astrology.
More about, exactly. So you haven't heard the last of us, folks. Again, I know I've already said this, Anne, about my thank you to having you on my show, but I really, really, really do appreciate it, and you make my day. It's one of the blessings I have is help promote other authors, other business people, to give them the exposure that they deserve. So, listeners, thank you very much for listening, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much, Joe, to you and to all your listeners. I'm so grateful to have the time together.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Blog Talk Radio.